if there's a part of you that feels not good enough, or feels I don't know, stagnant in some area of your life, or feels like unlovable or something, then how is that going to show up in external relationship if that's how we're doing our internal relationship? Probably very similarly.
Yes. Welcome back to the Mind Change Podcast. I'm your host, Heather McKean. Please take a moment to like, download, subscribe, and share if you find these podcasts helpful or interesting. They really help us know what kind of content to keep creating, and also helps get the word out. Today, we are going to be speaking about something that is very interesting and a very important topic, I think, in this day and age. We're going to be talking about the ancient dance between the masculine and the feminine. And joining me today for this conversation again is Kent. So welcome back.
Hi. Yeah, this is a really important conversation. And there's been a lot in recent years that has been coming out more and more with this whole idea around masculine and feminine. Definitely it was a lot of new information as I was diving in this for myself. Things that I thought I knew was masculine, thought I knew was feminine growing up, and then became very enlightened with a lot of different definitions, different understandings, different experiences. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to getting into this conversation as well. But to begin the conversation, before we jump into just masculine and feminine, I just want to let our audience know that we just came back from a retreat that we hosted. And it was an intimacy awakening retreat for couples. And this is part of why this is on our heart and on our mind, because there were so many dynamics at play with what people came in with, what they thought they were holding in the relationship and everything there. And so we thought that would be a really cool thing to talk about as well, just the importance of intimacy, what that really is. So yeah, I'm excited about this conversation.
Well, this was a big one for us, this topic in our lives personally. And I think we're really seeing that. I mean, this retreat was so transformational, so incredible. All of our retreats are something special, I have to say.
I would agree.
Yes. But I think this one and the people that we had there, I mean, it was very intimate. We had just 8 couples, and it was so truly transformational that I thought it would be a good idea for us to kind of breach the topic today. So before we get started, and we can share a little bit about our own journey on how we ended up here.
Sure.
But I want to make sure that people understand that when we speak about masculine and feminine, we're not talking about gender roles. Mm-hmm. This is energetic forces. And within each of us, we have a dynamic of the masculine and feminine.
Sure. Yeah. And without going into too much detail, I mean, you could do a whole teaching on like, what is masculine, what is feminine? And we'll get into that a little bit. But yeah, the bottom line is, even if we talk about our relationship and our dynamic coming in, the polarity of our relationship in one sense was very much, well, let's just say we both had masculine and feminine qualities, but I definitely leaned more toward the feminine and you leaned more toward the masculine. Not necessarily because it was our essences, like who we were made to be more dominantly, but more because of our environment, our upbringing, our traumas, things like that, that kind of made us feel safer in one polarity or the other, one pole or the other.
Yeah. And for us on our journey, we've done a tremendous amount of self-work and work with practitioners. And, with Mind Change, we've done so much. I don't know if I could have ever gotten into this topic from anything more than an intellectual approach had I not been through the amount of work that I've been through thus far. But for me, it was that we had done a lot of personal work, and then we kind of plateaued, I feel like, when it came to our relationship.
Yeah.
And I know that was such a common thing we were seeing at the retreat with our retreat participants too, was people were feeling like they had been wanting to work on their relationship and realizing how much work they had needed to do on themselves first before then being able to get to the spot where it's like, okay, still we have two people coming in. We can work on one and we can work on the other. But when we're working on the thing that we call the relationship, that's two people coming in and adding information. So the relationship actually does need to be worked on almost as a separate entity.
Yeah. Like even when I've worked with couples or things like that, the whole idea is like, yeah, I'll absolutely work with you. But first we need some individual work here, because the let's call them the relational issues or relational problems are not because of the relationship. It's because of what each person brings from their own lives, brain, body, trauma, whatever, into the relationship. And so we then sort of like muddy the pool, right? And so first we need to clean out our own filters, our own things, and then we can actually come with let's call it like cleaner vessel with each other to then create something that we actually want, right? Because you can change the behavior, there's so many things out there and we've done them all. Like, oh, let's learn how to communicate better. Let's learn our love languages. Let's learn how to have conversations with each other. I mean, there's a lot out there right now about like imago therapy of like, okay, I hear you, like heart talks. There's a lot of things out there that are good, that are really good things to put into practice. But for our relationship, as you said earlier, we had done so much work on ourselves, but then there was this part of our relationship that felt like a plateau of like, okay, but how do we go deeper? Like what's happening? It's like we've changed so much, but there was something in our relationship that was just like, it's good ish certain aspects, but then there's other aspects that we couldn't go deeper. And for me, recognizing it was an inability to actually have intimacy. Like there's this one part of me that I'm clearing my relationships and things from my past and my beliefs and anything there, but then intimacy, and not just talking about sex, although that can be sexual intimacy as part of it, but an intimacy in general, like what happens in my nervous system when I'm becoming intimate with someone, right? A friend, a conversation, but especially my spouse.
Mm-hmm. And as we discussed at the intimacy retreat, it begins within. Mm-hmm. It is, I think we've got a lot of people out there trying to make relationships work when the relationship with oneself is not working. And it really gets very wonky, maladaptive when you are trying to meet some sort of need, or when you're trying to feel loved or give love, receive love in an unloved place.
I mean, it's the same with parenting, right? I mean, it's not just in like partner relationships. It's like, I want to be the best dad I can be, but as a human, I kind of suck. Like that's going to be problematic in your parenting and your fathering, right?
If you believe that. If that's your belief.
Yeah.
And so many people are parenting out of, well, I don't want to be like my parents, mm-hmm. which is just a skill of what you don't want without there being a skill of what you do want. And so we very frequently end up just like our parents, but it looks different on the outside. And so we think that we've been doing it a different way the whole time, and the result's the same. That is in marriage so often, in relationships, is that couples will realize there is a dynamic, a familiar dynamic. And it really usually goes back to childhood or something they saw in their parents.
Yeah. So then can we start the conversation off, unless there's somewhere else you want to go, where we can just talk about what is intimacy for a moment? Before we get into the whole like masculine, feminine, all of that, just within ourselves, like how would you define intimacy?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I would define intimacy as a relational skill. So also the way we relate to ourselves. I would say that it's being able to know and be known.
Fully, authentically, raw,
absolutely
honest.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if we're not able, I mean, that has to come from within. Like, am I able to really see myself, really know myself, not just all of the ways that I perform, not all the identities and labels and coping mechanisms that I've assumed to survive. That isn't really me. So I can have a relationship with those things being very performative, but then what's underneath of it all? And then am I able to be known by others? Well, if I can't really see myself and won't really know myself, dig deep, then I can only go so far with others.
Okay.
The level in which I have met myself is as deep as I can meet others.
And not only the level you've met yourself, but like where you find yourself in that level. So if there's a part of you that feels not good enough, or feels, I don't know, stagnant in some area of your life, or feels like unlovable or something, then how is that going to show up in external relationship if that's how we're doing our internal relationship? Probably very similarly.
Yes, they pair it very frequently, mirror that what's going on inside of us deeply is a lot of the time what we're projecting onto our partner or our relationship. And if we won't know that at a deep level, and remember, they're survival strategies.
Sure.
So they are tricky in one sense to be known, because a survival strategy, really safety, which is where intimacy really lives, is safety and survival are not really great bedfellows. If you are constantly trying to survive, then there's not really a feeling of safety.
Right, because survival is all about, like, in one sense, keeping things out so that I can be okay, right? And safety is, it doesn't matter what's there because I'm safe. Therefore, everything around me is going to be safe.
Yeah, intimacy is always going to be a conversation at its heart about safety.
Okay. So if someone doesn't feel safe in their body, safe in their mind, safe with who they are, safe in their nervous system, what is going to happen to their own personal, like, internal intimacy and intimacy with partners or with relationship?
Well, it's going to be very fractured, but I think that it's also going to be hot and cold, in the sense that, so we've done a lot of work in a lot of spaces, right? And so there's an entire field out there and space out there where people are really doing this kind of masculine, feminine, energetic work, which is great. But a lot of it is kind of body focused, somatically focused, right? So we're asking our bodies to go into these places and to open and to soften and, all of these things. And what I've seen is a lot of trauma comes up.
Sure, because we're going deep, right? Anytime you go deep into the body or the mind, stuff's going to come up.
Yes. And I think in those spaces, it's to, sit with it and stretch your capacity for it, which I think is an approach. For us, one of the things that I have seen is that and I speak about this a lot when I'm talking about this idea around nervous system work, is that I do not want, it would be counterintuitive to have my body really open up and be soft and be surrendered if I'm in my mind replaying abuse situations, rejection, abandonment situations. If I'm holding those things in my mind, but I'm forcing my body into a state of openness or softness, right? Semi-safety, that's dissonance. That's not actually true. And so for us with the mind change work is change those things that are happening in the mind. Change the experiences, the way your body, your mind holds the memory, which then sets the body free to release the way they are held and stored in the body. Mm-hmm. So that's where we're seeing a lot of this play out. If from my past and my history, I have strong references for rejection, even small things like I'm rejected for women. This came up at the retreat. Like we grow up believing and being told we're too much and not enough at the same time. We're too much, too emotional and too too expressive and too whatever. But then the other side of it, it's like men that what we would have maybe deemed masculine, this isn't truly masculine, say that it's too much. Like, oh, too much emotion, too much crazy. And then we hear from the feminine side, from the women's side of like, but you're not enough. You don't measure up. You always need to look better, do better, be better.
Try more. Try
harder, right? So you've got this like battle raging inside of you. And then we try to go into a relationship with someone and their battles are raging inside of them. So I'm expected to be intimate with this person when I'm not being fully known. I don't really understand what's going on inside of me. My body is just doing things and I'm just feeling things. And I'm reacting to their tone, to the way they look, to the approach that they're taking, maybe even to the way that they are breathing, maybe the way they smell, maybe the way that they, just all sorts of different things. And I am completely unaware that I'm reacting to those things. Mm-hmm. But I'm reacting to what is authentically held inside. And so that's that part of intimacy coming in and knowing those things.
Okay, so to follow up what you were saying is that like these things that we hold, oftentimes it's like expand capacity, things like that. But whatever we are holding in the body, whether it's sexual trauma, emotional trauma, physical trauma, like whatever's there, even though we do store things, like our body has cellular memory, we do store things in the body. The brain connected to our central nervous system and everything else makes links, makes meaning, and makes like subconscious decisions on, well, next time this, or if this comes up similarly, then this reaction, then this feeling, then this belief, whatever. And so if we are to more just work on our body with intimacy, what would happen?
Well, I think we would fractionate a little bit. We would dissociate, honestly, because if you're forcing your body or really pushing your body into safety, openness, it depends. I'm speaking more from a feminine, where my work is. And yet these other things are happening in my mind. I'm really pulling myself out of authenticity and pushing myself into like a forced opening, where if you clean the stuff up in your head first, then the body's not fighting with where it originated. There's such a great example. This actually came up at the retreat. There was one of the men there. He was recounting a conversation I think that had happened the day before with his wife. He had a day off, and he said something to the effect of, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. And she said, I have some things that I think you could do, right? The honey-do list, probably. And he said, I think he said something like, you can't make me, or like, I will do whatever I want, something very kind of forceful. Now, you can go ahead and like try to somatically express that or move that through. But he had done enough mind change work where almost instantaneously after he said that, he said, wait, I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to my mother. Like he knew where that came from.
And then
he was able to release that, realize, okay, I'm not talking to my mother right now. I'm a grown man in my, late 40s. And this is my wife,
and
not
he
my
ended
mother.
up, like doing some
he did
mother
some self
wound stuff, like some self work on
he's
that.
Very familiar with the work.
Yeah.
So, but even just because he's so familiar with the work, he was able to catch that and change his mind right there, which when he changed his mind, what do you think that did to his body?
Relaxed.
Totally relaxed his body. Then he was open to her because she wasn't trying to boss him around like his mother did. She was, just trying to engage with him in a really actually different way.
Yeah. So you're talking about how like you as a woman, just being like pulled into something, whether, when there's things up in your head. For me as a man, that that showed up really obviously in our relationship with, because for men, we can't hide very well what our body is doing sexually, right? It's either like there or not there.
Right.
And so when my nervous system was like shut down, when it wasn't safe for me to be intimate, close, known, seen, all of that.
Again, not just sexually,
right?
Just emotionally.
Right. But even in the bedroom,
yes,
like it didn't matter what was happening externally. It didn't matter how sexual you were being. It didn't matter how open you were, because for me, like my body. So even if and this is something that was really difficult in our marriage for a while, was this whole idea of like, okay, my body's not working, right? This is kind of what I told myself. My body's not working. It doesn't work the way it should. I'm broken. I'm the problem, all of these things. That was actually just metaphoric and the same thing that I felt about myself in general, let alone the bedroom. And so then, of course, then it came to the bedroom and I'm like, hey, I want to be intimate with you sexually now. But because there was not a safety to even be intimate with myself, to even be intimate emotionally with you, then sexually also, it was non-functional many, many times. And it wasn't until I started at the root of like, okay, what's happening inside of me? Am I safe? When I got the safety inside of me, knowing who I am and everything, then I could do that with you on an emotional level that then would allow, obviously allow things physically to be normalized. What I will say though, and ask you is, when it comes to intimacy or any kind of connection in relationship, there's some people that are really good at certain aspects naturally, like something comes really naturally to them. So maybe they are really good parents together, but there's other aspects of their life that are like, or maybe like they fight all the time and they have issues, but like for some reason they feel like they have a really good sex life and like that's good. But then these other areas. So tell me about like, what is that we have certain areas in our relationships that seem to be like, I don't even have to work on it. And then there's other areas where it's like, this is the plague of our relationship, right? The bane of our existence in relating to one another. What's that about?
Well, for a lot of people, it's the interplay of their dynamics that they grew up with. Like very frequently we attract what we are looking to heal. Mm-hmm. If we've got things that are unhealed, usually with our parents, and not to blame parents, but these are just the dynamics, that shape us foundationally, then we're attracted to a mate. Usually this is all subconscious, that is going to help us safely resolve that.
Or at least have the opportunity to safely resolve that.
I really think we're getting into it thinking we're going to do it, not consciously again, right, subconsciously, right. But there's so few tools. And actually, you spoke to it earlier, but holy moly did we do so many years and hours and dollars of marriage counseling. And what I know now, what I didn't know then, was so much of the advice that we were being given was actually detrimental to our particular actual problem. And it was kind of just forcing us into further and further into our programs.
Well, especially my program of like, just give me the answer, the exact thing to do in these moments, whatever that is, and I'll do it. And it was more performative for me, like behavioral.
Right. You were more given the thing of like, be, and I know that this sounds good. So I know that this sounds good. There's so many women out there like, I wish my husband would do this. But you were kind of given direction to like, be a nicer guy. Like, come on, bring the flowers, write the cards, do the nice things.
Yeah, I was so looking at our relationship from the time we were dating to engaged, even for many years into our marriage, I would have been considered very like chivalrous, right? Like very like, oh, being the guy who thinks about, oh, let me get the flowers, like you said, or let me write the cards, let me be the romantic. Maybe that's a better word that that's I was like the romantic one, which, nice. Seems, yeah.
You're just nice. You were just very nice all the time.
Yes. Like wouldn't get angry, wouldn't get, I don't know, like upset even really. Just whatever you wanted, whatever you needed. Like if you felt like we needed to do something different and I had already made a decision, like that's okay. That's good. Yeah. So yeah, that played out in our relationship in different ways.
And that's funny because there are a lot of women out there like, yes, that would be awesome. And yet it's not.
Yeah. Until you get it, until you receive that, then it's like,
yes. Actually, and I mean, it's like being able to have those things so having the cards, if that's your thing, and the flowers, if that's your thing, and everything like that. And being a generally okay guy, like not being a jerk, but the masculine side of that, like that's okay. This would be a great place for us to pause. What do we mean by this? Because remember, we're not talking about gender. Mm-hmm. And there is a lot of cultural baggage around this right now. So I want to be clear to our audience when we're talking about masculine and feminine, the energies. What are we talking about?
Okay, so all of those things that I was doing, let's call it again, romantic. We'll use that. Is a very, in one sense, a very feminine quality or character, because it has to do with emotion, has to do with pleasure, has to do with like being soft and what does this person need and want and going with the flow of all of that stuff. Like it's very feminine. It doesn't mean that I was being effeminate, but it was a feminine version of that. That's the flow and the ease and the open and the soft and whatever. And I was that way.
Which we're not saying is negative.
No. And we all have that capacity in us, and we all need to, that part of my capacity did not need to be worked on so much because I had that one pretty honed. But it was paired with a wounded version of masculinity, or I'll say it was overcompensated for. And the masculine part of me that I did have with like structure, right? So we're talking about structure, scheduling, making sure that things are orderly, all of these things, those are very masculine traits. But what was missing was my presence, because I was so up in my head of like needing to make sure that you're okay and how am I serving you and what am I doing for you and all of that. So that was actually a wounded masculine inside of me that was coming out then in a feminine way.
Because the driver for it wasn't giving, wasn't abundance, wasn't overflow. The driver was fear. Mm-hmm. Like, if I don't do this, she'll be upset. If I don't do this, then she will be.
Or I will lose her. I mean, right. That was a bigger fear driver, was like, and I don't know if I was consciously thinking this all the time, but when all of this stuff eventually came to a head, the bottom line driver behind everything that I did in our relationship was either to do this to please you or do this so that I don't lose you.
And I would even say the step to please me was a little bit more, I'd say appease.
Sure. Yeah.
Rather than please, because pleasing is pleasure. And it wasn't being done out of pleasure. It was being done to prevent a negative.
It was being done from a place I didn't even know was there, which was basically asking permission all the time. Mm-hmm. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean I was legitimately asking for permission, although I did often, but it's more this even feeling into like, is she okay here? Is this okay? I said this. What's her reaction? What's happening here? Is this okay? It's permission. Like, how far can I go here? What can I do here? Oh, I need to step back there, because that's all up in my head. Because I wasn't embodied anyways, I wasn't present. So I actually wasn't able to feel what was good for you, which is the pleasing part. I was just trying to, like you said, appease.
And then marry that to me, which was very in my masculine as a protective mechanism, as a fear-based lack kind of driver. Mm-hmm. So it was not maybe overtly told to me, but this was my perception. So my 100% responsibility for what I perceived. But I perceived growing up kind of a don't rely on men. It would be very wise of you to make sure you are self-sufficient. You don't ever have a need for a man, mm-hmm. because they will let you down. They will use and abuse. I witnessed that from the masculine and the feminine side of my growing up in a lot of different ways. So then me growing up as I'm the one with my back, I'm the one who takes care of me. I'm the one, and that to do that, I became quite hard without realizing it, mm-hmm. very self-sufficient. And so then deeply, it took me years to admit this to myself, because it flew in the face of such a strong value, which is I don't need a man. Mm-hmm. I didn't need one. I wanted one. I wanted to be held. I wanted someone else for the first time in my life to hold more of a responsibility and for me to just release and collapse into, surrender. Mm. And that just seemed really, really unsafe. But it's what I really wanted. So that deeper thing in me is like wanting this. You're, of course, deeply, deeply probably hidden. All these things both hidden in us. Wanting to be that solid rock, wanting to be that place of safety. But our trained way of being, our programs, coping mechanisms were for you to appease and for me to get really independent. So you would come toward me and almost in a perceived needy kind of way, because in one sense you did. For you to be okay, I had to be okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was completely co-regulating to you. And so if Heather was happy, I was happy. And honestly, that's what men do in the world. That whole saying of like, happy wife, happy life. Like that is actually a man co-regulating to his wife, which is...
Yeah, but to be the pole of that, the opposite POLE of that, I needed to see that as clingy and I needed to move away from that. Mm-hmm. And so you would come close and I would back away.
Which would then trigger my own like rejection stories and the narratives I had about not being enough or not being good enough or whatever. So then I would try harder, which would push you away further, right? It was this whole thing happening.
And you would go deeper into the feminine to mm-hmm. reach me.
Yeah.
Getting very emotional, getting very, like reaching out in that way, kind of collapsing.
Yeah. Trying to really, in one sense, trying to soften more and more. And this is what happens naturally because the harder you get, the softer I get, right? Because if we were just both like, then we'd either, bang up against each other Or if we are both really soft, well, that happens too, where everyone's just like wild and like then it actually can get a little crazy and emotional. And there's a lot of different things that can happen.
Yes. So yeah, we did that dynamic for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
And we would go into counseling sessions or, try to get help from people. And I would always feel more drawn to and pulled to the way the man represented. And he would be speaking to you saying, you're probably feeling this way. And I'd be like, no. I'm the one feeling that way. I feel that way. And you would respond more to the woman and be like, yeah, that's how I feel. And we were just flip-flopped. But so much of none of the advice and programs we did and counseling we did ever addressed the deep flip-flop that we had done in our masculine and feminine energies.
Yeah. And of course those flip-flop for us, because there are men who are like, this is what's difficult about this is we say masculine and feminine. It's almost better to call it something else because we attribute like, oh, if you're not masculine, you're not a man, but that actually doesn't necessarily mean that either. And so if let's call it something else, let's call masculine more the like awareness or the more just beingness, right? Like solid
consciousness.
Yeah, you can call it consciousness.
And we're not talking, because in Mind Change, we deal a lot with conscious and subconscious. Mm-hmm. So we are not talking about the man being like in his conscious mind.
No.
Consciousness meaning more like
being.
The being of
being, and there's no there's no thought, it's just be. So that would be the masculine at its core, the feminine being flow, being softness, being love, being like all of that would be the feminine. So there are a select amount of men whose essences really are more the flow and there's nothing wrong with that. Like that is more, now there's a difference between being trained and pushed that direction because I'm wounded and like this is easier for me or feels more natural for me or I'm desperately going this direction versus this is actually what is true to me. And there are some women who are more their essence is more masculine, which means like they are more like just there. They are more solid. They are more in the way they think, the way they move, the way they are, less of the feminine. That doesn't mean they're not feminine. It just means that and so there are those dynamics. But in general, most men, most women in their essences are either the masculine or the feminine, respectively, right? And so I was deeply ingrained in the feminine. But from a place of wounding. A lot of that wounding had to do with, I'll just share for me, I didn't know this, but I was trying to get away from what I perceived as toxic masculinity. Now, I would not have named it that as a teenager or in my early 20s. I don't even think that was a thing back then. But as I got older and there was more of this label to it, I was like, oh, these kind of guys, whatever it was, like, oh, that kind of guy, I don't want to be like him. I don't want to be like him. I don't want to be like him. Pointing out all these different kinds of guys for their attributes, and so what I ended up doing was saying, well, I'm not going to be that. I'm going to be something so different. In doing that, I actually lost the capability of finding, but what is the good in the masculine? What is the good in these areas or this person or this man? Like I almost, it's like being in a class and you're like, oh, I don't really like the teacher, so I'm just not going to learn anything in this class. Where it's like, but there's like amazing things that you could learn in the class, and it doesn't always have to be about the teacher, right? And so, getting back to you had learned, as you said, to like harden yourself because it wasn't safe to open and to allow people in because you kept getting hurt. For me, it wasn't safe to stand up and be my own and learn how to just be. I had to appease because, again, in my past and trauma and whatever, like people would get mad at me and that would make me feel unsafe and I had to do things right and all of that. And so I wasn't able to be my own. So this is how our dynamics came into play.
It's interesting because when you were talking before about the whole essence thing, I would have gone to the bank that I was one of those women who had the essence of a more masculine woman. And I can tell you it took years of mind change work to be honest with myself and realize that that was wounding, that was just armor, layers of thick, thick armor. And what I really wanted, like it was so vulnerable to myself. So this is self-intimacy, exactly what we were speaking about before. It was super vulnerable for me to sit down and be working in one of my manifestos and realize, like, I actually want this. Like, I want to be taken care of. I want to be personally, this means nothing to the label of this out there, because I know this is not synonymous with what I was looking for, but I wanted to be like the stay-at-home mom, wife. Like, I just wanted to be taken care of and all of these various things. And again, that is not the way I live my life right now, by the way. I work, but it was getting in touch with the desire. And like, oh my gosh, that actually lives in me. And it is the most true part of me, these things that I want and desire. And it was me first having to deal with what was under there and not blame it, shame it, judge it, like actually be soft with that part of me. These were the things before I ever knew the word polarity or, ever really understood masculine and feminine energy or anything like that. So it was those initial exercises of intimacy with myself, which came through doing the work, like digging deep, knowing me at various levels, the real me, had I not had this happen or this happen or this happen, right? That was what set me up for the ability to be like, okay, you know what? I am not one of those women whose essence is masculine. Like, my essence is feminine. The masculine energy has served me very, very, very well. And it continues to serve me well. But I've got that one down. It's the other one that I needed to stretch into, the femininity that I needed to start to let come alive. And that started with me being safe in my memories first. And then my body was able to soften into the places where that was true, because I could recognize it. That's the thing. We are so subconsciously picking up on things. And so we're asking people to soften and be safe and do all these things, but we've still got the triggers in our mind for what something not safe is. And we think if we know all the things that are not safe, that's what keeps us safe. That's not true. Then our reticular activating system, that's what it's made for, is that it finds that. So it finds all the not safe stuff. So I was really, really, really good at finding tons and tons of people that were not safe and situations that were not safe and being like, red flag, red flag, red flag. The problem was I did not know what a green one looked like. I kind of didn't know they existed. So doing my work in my memories, in my subconscious mind, I started to learn what green flags did look like from a young age. And lo and behold, they were actually all around me the whole time. And in you, which I was not able to see prior to.
Yeah. And likewise, I recognize that for me, that part that I actually was afraid for a little bit when I started learning, I was like, maybe my essence isn't masculine, maybe, all of these things. And that is even what drew me to I want to have a partner, and there's nothing wrong with partnership, but this whole idea of I want to be a partner. I want us to do things equally. Now part of that was upbringing and even this whole women and men, they're equal and and all of that's fine and good, but just equality doesn't mean the same. And so this idea of me wanting to just have you as my partner and be right there really came down to me being this wounded little boy who didn't feel enough, who felt well, if I have someone else in my life that's there with me to support me, rather than learning how to be standing in my own power, how to be erect, like in my own body and self, right? And metaphorically, emotionally, sexually, all these things, because I had to like lean on you all the time for these things. So the more that I dug into that as well, I started to recognize this whole idea about, okay, who am I really? And when I started tapping into this and releasing the things in my mind of what I thought about people and what I thought about my own upbringing and men in my life and all of this stuff, the same kind of thing happened where it wasn't in my mind the green flags, but it was like, oh my goodness, there's like really good men out there. And finally it was safe to listen. It wasn't like finding a good man was no longer threatening to me of like, I'm not good enough. Finding a good man wasn't like this impossibility because all men are these men I was trying to run away from as a boy or as a teenager or as a young, whatever. Like all of a sudden there was this part of me that shifted where I'm like, okay, I'll say this first. It was always safer. And I wouldn't have said that word growing up, but it was always easier, safer to be around women for me. Like just even as a teenager, like I was around girls a lot. I had an older sister. Like there was a lot. I ended up in a family with a wife and 2 daughters and female dogs and like, you know, like it was just a lot. And it was just, even the friends that I had are like easier to talk to people. It was always women. And that was what I had learned. And so when I dug into this stuff and realized, oh my goodness, like I actually love being a man, which I didn't feel the most of my life. It's not like I was necessarily gender confused, but it was like this, it's not good to be a man. It's not safe to be a man. I don't know if it would just be easier if I was a woman, even were some of the thoughts that came up. And that is because that was more just easy for me naturally because of the wounds, right? And so when I got into this and dug deeper, it was like, oh, yes, I want to be around more men. I love being around men, so much so that I'm like, even we have a lot of women on our team, and I'm like, where are the men? Come on, man. Like and so, yeah, it really was a switch. Like you said, with the green flags, for me, it was this like, oh, I actually love this and want more of this and need this.
And I do want to recognize it. We're having this conversation in a pretty tense and volatile time around genders and around these things. So some of these ideas can be very triggering. But I think even that speaks to how wounded we all are. What our ideas around masculine, feminine, we have so many wrong ideas, wounded ideas. And that is, we are seeing so much freedom in individuals and especially couples when we get in and take all of that out of the conversation, all of the trigger and the meaning making from a cultural standpoint, and really make it personal. What did you think about men? What do you think about men? What do I think about women and men, and vice versa, right? And getting into our programming, because that then dictates how I'm going to respond. My programming dictates my responses always. So getting into my programming and seeing that has changed everything. And we saw that at the retreat as well. One of the first, so we did, people, I think you come in thinking it's a marriage retreat, and we told people it's not. This is not a marriage retreat. This is an intimacy retreat. Secondly, they're like, okay, good, it's a sex retreat. No, it is not a sex retreat. It is an intimacy retreat. And where does that start? Within ourselves.
Yeah.
So the men did men's work, and the women did work with the women. And we all were doing the work we had together and going deep and going inside. And I can tell you, and I cannot wait till the testimonies come out, the videos come out, because this was truly the most transformational thing I've ever seen. But after the first class, I could see such a major difference in people.
You're talking about the first class that you and I did a split, like I'm with the men, you're with the women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I would say less of a class. There was like, I mean, definitely some talking and teaching, but it was more the experiential, like what we were doing in the practices and with, utilizing embodiment and mind change and a whole bunch of things. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think you really quite understand how you feel in a group of the same gendered people unless you were there and you're going deep, then a lot of this stuff comes up.
Yeah.
A lot of insecurities, a lot of checking, like for the women, it was a lot of insecurities, a lot of looking around, a lot of comparing, a lot of like trying to get it right, do it right, kinds of things. And then I know for the men, a lot of it is just like the just trying not to check out, dissociate, or laugh it off, or, whatever. They're powerful, confronting forces.
But those are the learned behaviors, right?
Yes.
The learned behaviors for most women is the comparison. Am I enough? Am I too much? Am I all these things, right? Like in one sense, gauging, which is exactly what I did in our relationship actually, is like, what's my level? What should I be at right now, right? But that is what women often learn. Men, we have been taught and learned unconsciously to like not feel, to shut down, to ultimately dissociate, right? And so how do we do that? Laugh things off. How else do we do that? Like not feel, like, I don't know, like just not even know what's going on, right? And of course women are like, yeah, my husband doesn't even know what's happening in the relationship, or that's what we've learned. And so learning to go deeper and go past those and rip those filters out so that men can actually be present, actually feel. The women can actually go inward and let go of like, what are people thinking, right? All of this is part of the process.
Yeah, I think that it's why for men, watched sports and video games have become, I mean, you hear women complain about it all the time, of like losing their man to sports or losing their man to video games. And it's because men are meant to be alive, engaged, like in teams and doing things together with other men.
And feeling like excitement or anger or whatever's there, right?
Yeah, but instead you've got men vicariously doing that from a couch with a sports team, and it's like that's their only gauge to feel is what other people are doing thousands of miles away. And they're like, those people don't even know you exist, but this is the only way you feel. Or in a video game, now you're finally like the warrior or the soldier or whatever it is that you're being.
It's winning. We get to win.
You get to win. You get to fight. You get to win.
Do the right thing.
But in your actual body, what you're actually doing in the real is often just sitting and checking out of your like actual surroundings and in another world.
Yeah.
And so it's another form of dissociation, of numbing out.
Yeah.
And women then we get mad and we get, and we pout or we fit or we, like crave attention and
trying to get our attention. But we become so dissociated to that or like numb out from even that then what happens is then you'll get hard, right? And then we're like, what's wrong? I don't even know, like, right? All of it. So yeah, It's this beautiful, not so beautiful dance that happens. Okay, so I do want to talk about that because obviously there's a lot of powerful things that we were able to witness and see at the retreat, the Intimacy Awakening retreat. And one of the powerful aspects was being able to separate the men and the women and really dig in, right? That was one of the, I would say, a huge, powerful aspect of it. Another really powerful aspect, a number of them, was being able for couples to be able to recognize their dynamics. And so there's a lot of people that come in and they're like, I mean, we even had people that are like, oh, well, what I'm really hoping for is we can, grow in our communication, or what I really want is to learn how to, have better sex, or what I want to, like, whatever it is, the dynamics. But the problem or the symptom of what's there is not actually the deeper dynamic. And so it was really, really neat for these people to do some of the practices, some of the experiential things we were doing. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh my goodness, this is how I show up in relationship. This is how I show up in life. This is the dynamic that's there. But once they recognized it, and that was really neat to be able to go that deep, awareness is one thing, right? Information is one thing, but then getting in, of course, everyone was able to have, a private session there and go in deeper for themselves. But what I love and what was powerful there, it was the rewiring of the patterns and the programs within themselves and in relationship.
It was so amazing because we got to sit with each one of the practitioners there, got to sit with our individual clients while we were there as well. And I just remember the first man that came in and sat down, he was just like, my mind is blown. Like, I did not understand until just now what has been happening between us for all of these years. And he just got it. And he got it through one of the men's exercises. He realized in the midst of that this is what he had this, I will be there for a man. I will never let go. I will show up for a man, but feeling like I have no idea how to show up for a woman. And so just retreat like crazy. And then it's like, oh, this is what my wife has been talking about this whole time. It didn't click for him until then, just then. And he was just starry-eyed. And then, of course, we go super deep in the sessions and going back to where that first started. And I remember the other man that came in, he was like, I thought all these years that I was operating in the masculine. I had no idea what real masculinity was. He was just blown away. And then to see the counterparts, right? And understanding how the women and how their programming was fitting with this. So one of the wives just being like, I do not exist in my body. It is so hard for me to be in my body. And so, of course, being touched, being, intimate in any way for her was just so unsafe. But she perceived her husband as a safe person. So all of these other things that were coming up, it was just such a break for them because she would say, no, my husband's safe. And yet her body would just be brace, like crazy. But she was disconnected, completely disconnected. So she couldn't even see that her body was doing that. It was amazing. And then another woman really realized that she does not stick up for herself in her marriage at all, and perceived the only way to do that was to kind of fight back. And that was super triggering for the husband because the husband was in that kind of fragile masculinity of when she would start to be like that, it was almost like he would see her as a man, as an opponent, as someone to conquer in that moment. And she's just trying to advocate for herself. But so much of her dynamic was seeing a super over the top masculine mother and a very in his feminine father, which the way that looked, it ended up looking as the mother being very controlling, ruling everything, and completely demoralizing the husband and emasculating the husband. But he just bowed to her every command. And the children suffered.
Every sitcom in the 90s and early 2000s.
Yes. So for her, we had to get back into that stuff for her to see that she was actually embodying her father in that. She was playing out her feminine the way her father was doing his wounded feminine. And that was not serving her in her marriage. Anyway, when this stuff starts changing, these couples just change. I can't even begin to.
The way that it was really, I mean, listen, everyone who came, like these solid 8 couples, and we actually held it that size for the reason, like we wanted to keep it intimate, right?
Yeah.
And so, but to have these 8 couples come in, some of them were like, we're here, we're excited. Others were like, I don't know what exactly we're doing, but I'm putting my trust in this. And others were, kind of distant from each other, but, trying. And to watch them come in and see the drastic dynamic changes, to be part of their internal wiring changes, and then to witness them interact in the practices, in the experiences that we had in the retreat, and to leave so bonded, so connected, and mostly first and foremost connected to themselves, and then safe enough to then really connect with this human in front of them that they have chosen to partner with, right? So that to me was amazing. What I loved about this whole retreat, maybe one of the things I loved the most, is that we had couples there that had, been together for 30 plus years. And to watch their dynamics that, he numbing out and, trying to be the wall and all of that, like softening, and then seeing them come together from so many years of the same things and then really coming alive together. But then we had young couples there as well, right? Like people that are just starting to recognize the dynamics that are showing up, and it's like, it's okay, it's still not too late, right? And then working through that was one of my favorite things. You mentioned this a little bit, but there was a woman who was really just didn't like to be touched, right? And as it goes with programming, husband who like just wants touch like as much as possible, right? But then it becomes this awkward, weird thing. And so watching and witnessing and working with her, going from like, it's not safe, to at the end, like really holding and embracing not only her husband, but like everyone, me, you, the other men, the other women, like, come here, I didn't get a hug from you yet. Like just all of this, and not just like a hug, like embraced, right? Like it was almost like it was safe to be intimate with many, many people on an emotional connective level, because she was for herself, right? There's so many other, I remember there was a couple who had like a little bit of a, let's call it an awkward embrace at the beginning. Like we're asking couples to do certain things.
And they were self-professed, like more like living like friends, like roommates.
And it's like, okay, we're like doing this thing. And then just to watch, like at the end, once all of these filters came off and all of these things, just like it was as if 2 hearts were embracing that were like somehow joined together, right? And yeah, and then, I mean, the last person I want to share about it, I could have so many stories, but a man who really, for so many good reasons, felt rejected his whole life.
Yeah. Like,
unless he did this, unless he did that, and still internally feeling rejected, but at least less rejected if he accomplished this or, did a good job on this or whatever. And that showed up, not only in his partnership and his parenting, in his job, like everywhere that he was, like this rejection program kept coming up everywhere. And then really leaving with this mantra and knowing, not just like I have a new mantra, but like from his core, I am so solid. Like no one can reject me. It doesn't even matter. Like just this, it fully accepted, because he finally accepted himself and got solid in himself. And then it started showing up in his relationship and with everyone else. So really amazing stories. Any other stories that you have that you want to share?
So many treasured moments.
Yeah.
Okay. I will just say probably one of my favorite, which is hard because there's many, but a woman that, and an older woman, but who really, when we first started talking about this, she was like, I don't understand this femininity stuff at all. Like, I don't really get it. I don't understand it. I've never seen it. And so I think we were 3 days in and we came into a rather vulnerable practice.
Mm-hmm.
And she, in her own, I just happened to be close enough to hear her say this. She did this kind of little twirl and she said, I feel pretty. And she was so beautiful in that moment. She had this like wide grin on, and she just was embodying femininity in that moment. And I just was like, my heart just nearly exploded. I tucked that one away. Oh, so I have so many of them. I could say about each person there. It was really such a beautiful thing to see and witness and be a part of. Because we feel this stuff. This is the thing. This work cannot be performed. I think there were people there that were like, all right, I'm here. Let's do this. Let's get this over with. Like, I will do the right thing. I will perform the thing that needs to be performed, but it cannot be performed between the group work, the individual work, the deep session work that we do, the one-on-one session work. You can't fake your way through this. There is no performance. Right. And getting people into that authenticity was just so amazing. So amazing. I don't think a lot of them thought they could have gotten there. And you could see the change in their body, in their dynamic.
In such a short amount of time,
short amount of time.
Not a spoken change or a behavior change, but an internal, rewired mind, repatterned body, heart change.
Yeah. To where my body felt different in the presence of these people.
Yeah.
I felt them differently.
Yeah, for sure.
Just, and we could see that happening with the couples too. They were feeling each other differently and not new. That's the thing. Like even with that woman, even if these ideas around femininity or masculinity or where you need to expand yourself into feel really foreign or feel really unsafe, we do the work to get there. And it's not putting stuff in. It's uncovering, unlayering. That stuff's in there. That's the authenticity. If you take away the identities and take away the performances and take away the programs, at the core of people, it's there. And so we were seeing people come back into themselves for the first time in sometimes ever. And sometimes you could just see by the last night, there was a childlike, it was like everyone had just turned into children. Do you remember the movie Cocoon?
Yeah.
That's not too far.
No, it's a good one.
For all of you youngsters out there, Cocoon is a movie about these people in this retirement home. I don't want to give it away because you should really see it if you can see it anywhere. Something magical happens and they all get kind of the energy of children again. And you see them playing like Red Rover and tag and hide and go seek. And, just the spirit of these people are so different. I was feeling that, this playful energy, but with each other, with everybody, with the groups. It was like we were all kids again and everyone was safe. And there wasn't any of the, all the performance that's out there.
Yeah.
The posturing. We'd all seen each other in very, like
vulnerable states.
Naked emotionally. Don't worry, it's not that kind of a retreat. So not naked physically, but naked emotionally. And then and the boundary was always love.
Yeah.
And so it just created such a bonding experience with all of us.
And if I can say, their intimacy was awakened.
Yeah. It was woke on up. Yes, absolutely. So yeah, I think this is an important conversation. Obviously, we are just itty bitty scratching the surface.
Oh, there's so much more.
There's so much more. I mean, we could get into what unhealthy or, the wounded feminine looks like, or a woman who's really strongly in her masculine and vice versa. There's so much, but we'll probably need to save that for another one. But
yeah, because there's like, okay, what is feminine? What is wounded feminine, what is unhealthy feminine or toxic femininity, right? Then there's the same with the masculine. So there's like these different layers, and there's a whole lot of like what we've learned and how we've, there's a lot there.
Yeah. And again, culturally, we're being really, we're being forced to talk about this stuff, but not from a healthy perspective, from a let's dig in and look at all the ways it's wrong. All the ways it's like bad, how men are bad and men are wrong, and men have, ruled the world and ruled and lauded over us, and then there's a reaction about the women too, and the rise up of the women. And we're talking about all of this in gender speak, but also through decades, eons of pain.
Yeah. And there's a lot of whether it's media or books or articles or things, there's a lot out there that are and movements of people that are unfortunately trying to, from their wounds, nudge people a certain direction, and it swings the pendulum, right?
Yeah.
But what I'm thankful for is that there are people out there, certain authors, certain researchers, certain people that are like really trying to help raise the consciousness of this planet, humans, in all different ways, right? Whether it's the understanding, the masculine and feminine essence, whether it's understanding, how taking care of the earth, whether it's understanding for us, like rewiring the mind, like there are people out there that are really doing what they can to help enhance, evolve what has been swung one way or the other so often with the pendulum. And there's some really grounded people out there. And so we're grateful to be part of that conversation. Just trying to bring some like balance to it. But it starts with the balance in ourselves.
Yeah. So far, we've not brought anybody on as a guest who is not familiar in mind change, because this is the Mind Change podcast. But there are some definite people that I think that have great information and have done a lot of work that would be good to have on at some point.
Yeah.
So let us know if that's interesting to you guys out there. But yeah, it was awesome. I'm looking forward to the next one. This was super experimental for us.
Sure.
We were like, okay, because we ended up having a number of couples coming to the self-empowerment retreat or our wellness retreat that we do. And when couples would come, we'd see these like profound changes in the couples. And the couples who've come, when both people are really going after stuff, these are the people that we've probably seen the most change in.
Yeah. So
we were realizing like, okay, we probably need something specialized for this. And that's where this retreat was birthed. Yeah. And it was such a great, big, huge experiment.
And it also was, let's call it catered or to certain people. Like there were actually some people that I talked to and I was like, ooh, this isn't the best retreat for you, right? Because this isn't I'm desperate, my marriage is about to fall apart, come to this retreat, right? There's a level of something that needs to be there because it needs to be that safe environment that we're creating for the group as a whole. And so it is a special group of people who ended up coming because it was really catered to them.
Well, everybody there has done mind change before.
Yeah,
They've had session work done.
Yeah, they've worked on themselves.
Yes, which means we're already setting the stage for there to be personal accountability, for people to kind of have a general idea of, oh, if I'm doing this, there's probably a good reason that I probably have references and programming for this. Yeah. So
if you are listening and you're like, oh, well, what retreat? We do a different retreats. We have retreats just for students that are in the community who like really know how to do the self-work and then take it to the 2.0, that next version, that next level. This is for couples. We have more of like a wellness retreat and overall, like this could be for anyone who's brand new to it. So there are different things depending on what, on where you're at. But to kind of bring this full circle to what we were talking about at the very beginning, even in our dynamic, like I am so, so grateful for the work that we've done individually on ourselves and our minds and our lives so that we could show up to actually take hold of that next level in us, because there's no way we could have, I think, really run a retreat for couples that was about intimacy or about depth or about like vulnerability or about safety, presence, about like being able to hold whatever she's bringing, all of that, had we not first embarked on that journey for ourselves. And that is something that's really, really important to us, is that, you know, whatever we're going to help others with, we really can go as far as we've come ourselves in a lot of ways. And so it's important that you and I continue, and this is a pillar that you and I have in our relationship and our, you know, that we continue to grow individually, so that when we come together as a couple, as parents, as partners in business and life and everything else, that it's continuing to evolve.
Yes. And that we don't ever step into the unhealed healer space and, you know, sell out. Man, if we started telling people we could just change their marriage and save their marriage, and, you know, you'd sell out many, many retreats, but that's not what we're in this for. I'm not just looking to sell out retreats at all. In fact, like you said, we've had to turn people away just because they need they need other steps first.
Yeah, there's a couple that wanted to come, and I hope they still do this, but they, you know, it's not where they needed to be. But I told them, you know, I do intensives though, so that we can do, like, I can get with you and I can get with your spouse, and then we do some individual work, we do some work together. Like there are things out there that we want to provide people. But yeah, I mean, I by no means do I feel like I'm an expert in any of this either. Like, I'm always learning, I'm always growing, even though you and I have very much done more than 10,000 hours of, you know, client work and all of that. There's like, I don't know if I'll ever be like, oh, I've mastered this, because there's always something new to learn and always something new to grow in for myself. And so that's really what I want, is just to continue to grow, continue to evolve personally, which then can help, in my opinion, the world grow and evolve in the best way that it can with my gift to the world.
Yes, I would say we're still very much on this journey within ourselves. Masculinity, femininity, partnership, intimacy. So yeah, we realized we could take people up to a certain point, which is really far beyond what most of us are normally
accustomed to.
Yes. But for sure, yeah, we're going to just keep going, keep growing, keep learning. Absolutely.
And those people that came, we were like, yeah, that we'll talk about that, or we'll do that, or that's like level 2 of this. That's like part 2 of the
part 2.
So we'll go even deeper than intimacy awakening.
We could all probably do part 1 multiple times. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But so we don't have any scheduled right now. Because
maybe by the time this comes out, we will, but
maybe. But keep an eye out. If you don't follow us on social or on the newsletter, keep an eye out. I'm nearly 100% that next one will fill up very fast. We already had half the couples that were like, we're coming next year. Let us know as soon as possible. So that could sell out very, very quickly. So just because we want to get as many people to experience this as possible. So follow us or whatever, however you stay in the know from what we're doing. It'd be great. We'd love to have you. We'd love to see you and know you.
Yeah, there is something magical about, I mean, obviously most of our clients are online, but there is something magical about being together on retreat, going deep, holding one another, like in our, awareness and our energy. And there's something there.
Yeah. I still feel like giddy inside from it. It's a lot of work, but yeah, I will, that feeling is going to last a long time.
Yeah.
And each one of those people are so supremely special that we did all of that together. Yeah. So what an opportunity. All right. Good stuff. Thanks. I know we have so much more we could talk about, but for time's sake, we will wrap it up today. But thank you for all the work you've done. Holy moly. You were, and I think this is the way it needed to be. You were the first to sort of foray into this as deeply as you did.
Mm-hmm.
And the relationships the people that you found, other men to journey with, was such a really vital part of this.
Yeah,
And so
100%.
I appreciate you so much for doing that work. I know it wasn't easy. I mean, it's easier than what you were doing before, but it's really transformed so much of what our relationship is now and what I know it's going to be.
Yeah. Every year is it's like every year of our relationship, I look back and I'm like, that was just a year ago, like, or that was just 2 years ago. Like, how were we this way? How did that happen? How did we live that way for so long? Whatever that was.
Yeah.
Right. And then as the dynamics change and as we level up, it's, man, I'm so grateful.
Me too.
Yeah. Thank you for trusting me, because there's been a lot of ways in our relationship where I wasn't solid. In one sense, I really wasn't trustable because I would crumble so easily. And so thank you for doing all the work that you've done to be able to trust me this deeply and let me lead in this way.
It took a lot of my own work and realizing how I was contributing to it, how I was complicit in it, and really get to know what I wanted, because I kept expecting you to know and to figure it out and to just give it to me, when the fact of the matter is I didn't know. And I thought I wanted things that I didn't actually want. So that was my own work and my own intimacy journey. And it helped a lot in those next, uncomfortable moments, because you're having to relearn and repattern everything as a couple.
Man, do you remember? I just thought about this. This is like so off topic, but do you remember? Obviously, we had a lot of bedroom issues. If you've listened to this podcast at all with us, there's at some point, or you're in the course, you're going to hear about some like bedroom problems that we had.
It gets very, very revealing in the module 2 course.
Is that where it is?
One. Yeah.
I don't know. Anyways,
we're very, very, very open.
But man, like, so to look back at, first of all, what was missing for so many years, right? But then to recognize, when we're talking about the feminine part of me, like I recognize now, and you and I have talked about this, but like how like feminine I was, like, oh, I wanted you to initiate and wanted you to like be the one who takes me in the bedroom, like all of these different things. And as all of this, basically as the poles swapped in a healthy way, not in a like, I need to do this because I'm the man and you're the woman, but like, it's amazing what has changed in our dynamic. Let's call it the bedroom dynamic, right? Where there's safety in me, there's stability in me, there's like strength in me, there's this part of me that like, it's just so different now. Again, I'm not going to get explicit, but like, it's so different. And it's because of the deep inner work, the mind change work, and then adding on this new layer of like, oh, what is this part of me that I've been pushing away for so long? This true healed masculine part of me that is available, right? And then bringing that in, because now everything else is calmed down. Now it's safe. And man, I love it.
Which has allowed me... Oh, I love it. And it has allowed me to soften and to step so much more into the feminine, which I have 2 girls. And let's just say they did not see a lot of that growing up. And I'm watching that play out in their lives too, which, listen, can't blame or shame it. I really believe we were doing the best we could at the time. Sure. But I'm never going to stop being the best me I can be, which means the best wife, the best human, the best mother, the best whatever it is that I can be. So
the best goddess in the bedroom. As I stand in my power and take you.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
It's that masculinity is such a safe thing. It's such a like breath of fresh air. My body just can feel that. And I did not experience that for most of my life. So.
As didn't I. But now it doesn't matter, right? I mean, that's the beauty of this work, is it's not just like, I'm just going to do these things and hope it, like if you really do the inner work, if you really shift what you're holding in your mind and body, and then also learning like a new training, how to be, man, the power that's in that. And it's a drastic change. It's not just like, well, my default still, like there can really be a new default. So it doesn't mean you don't make mistakes. It doesn't mean that you don't, lose track of like where you are and lose presence or lose softness or there's not, but we can easily come back to homeostasis, which is this, okay, we're safe with each other.
Yeah. Well, I know we were going to wrap up, but I mean, that's why one of the words that gets used in this space is polarity. It's really speaking about the way that magnetism works, like magnets. Mm-hmm. And if you've got, two that are the same, what happens?
They repel. They
push away. You need the two forces to be pulled together and for the best things to happen. That's force. That's energy. The magnet can't just be like, okay, I'm going to try really, really hard. If it's positive or negative, is that what we talk about when we're talking about?
Well, but here
magnetism.
Yeah. I mean, it's
I talk about like positive and negative feelings, just that the magnet can't just be like, oh, I'm going to just try hard. And that changes it's what's real, what's really being sent out. It is the frequency, the vibration, the pole that is that is being sent out, that's going to call out. This is just physics. It's going to call out something from the other.
Right. And so
it'll either pull it or it'll repel it.
And then it switches. And this is why in all relationships, like, again, we go back to there's both in both of us, right? And so there's going to be moments, and there are moments where like I'm feeling a lot and I just need to like let it out. And you can hold that space for me as you stepping into your masculine, me stepping into my feminine, and then boom, great. I got what I needed. You were there for me. Awesome. We're staying pulled together, P-U-L-L, but also P-O-L-E together. And then it can go back to like, okay, I've got me, I've got you, here you are, whatever you need as my woman, as, whatever.
Yes. And these are energetic dynamics. They are not thoughts in our head.
Right.
They're not decisions we make. And like, oh, I'm just going to barrel my way through. These are things that need to be learned and stretched into and practiced. Mm-hmm. So it should come natural to us, and it does as we start to unlayer, but we have to do the unlayering.
Yeah.
And that's why I love the pairing of mind change. I literally cannot imagine going into some of the spaces that we've gone into not having the tool of mind change.
Well, I have gone into those spaces with other men and and like to see like, oh wow, everyone expands, but there is something about like the default that people keep going back to, or at least the men that I've witnessed, and some women actually, just the default of where they go back to so easily because of what they're still holding in their mind.
Yeah. Yes.
And so again, it goes back to like, you've got to go to the root of how these neural networks are, how the neurons are firing every time you encounter something that reminds you of something when you were younger, or something that was repelling, or something that was scary, or something that was toxic, or like it all is firing in the brain and body. And so we have to bring in this, in my opinion, we have to bring in this mind change work, this massive biohacked neuroplasticity deconstruction of what our brain is holding that then creates the neurochemicals in our body. We have to bring that in to then be able to create and be with ease this new understanding of what it means to be masculine or what it means to be feminine. That's my opinion.
And the way that we got here was there's always been, the two approaches. There's top down, which is mind approach to it, and then bottom up, which is the body approach. And forever, the top down has been therapy, talk therapy, conscious mind work, cognitive behavioral therapy, talking through things. So rightfully so much of the world has gone into like, hey, top-down approaches don't work. So now everything's focused on nervous system rewiring and somatic work and all of this like body up, bottom up. And
there's shifts there
Sure.
in the same way that there's
there's
shifts
been
in all
lots of
different-
people who've had success with talk therapy because you reframe things and you're cognitively a little bit of in a different space. But both are going to have you white knuckling at some point, fighting against one. There is no real, we call them different, mind, body. They're one organism really working together. Speak a little bit of different language, but they work together. You can't have one without the other. So it's got to be worked out together. And my theory is start where it started. It didn't just wire right into the body first. It came through and it has to be processed through your mind. That's where it starts. Your mind dictates where it gets stored, how it gets processed. Was it a trauma? Did it trigger your amygdala? Did it call for a nervous system response? Your brain decides that. It's brain first, body second, even though they're the same. It's where the transmission originates and where it ends. So that's I get the whole like top-down approach is ineffective. I agree, because nobody was really doing subconscious reprogramming. It was all conscious approach. So this is a vital, vital, vital piece of this if you want whole human healing. So there I go again. I'm probably saying that on every podcast now because people aren't hearing me.
All right.
Listen, some people are hearing.
Yeah.
The right people are hearing it when they're ready.
Yeah.
So.
And when you're ready for this work, whether it's digging into the book, whether it's getting the workbook and learning to just try to work on yourself, people have had incredible success with that. For those who really want to dive deeper, there's the course, right? That we have the student community within the course, and there's this global community online that meet together and have mentoring calls, and private sessions are included. Like depending on or you're like, get me to a retreat. Like there's ways to access all of the transformation that you already hold inside. There's just different ways to do that. And so that's why we have a number of different approaches to it.
We have a lot of resources.
Yeah.
So Kent,
yeah,
if I were out there and like, oh my gosh, there's so many places to go, where do I start? What should I do?
Well, since I don't know your story, quote unquote, if you're this person, just like, what do I do? The best thing to do is book a discovery call. At the moment, right now, fall of 2025, I've decided to take on all the discovery calls. So that's 20 minutes of my time with you where tell me where you're at, tell me what you know, let me help explain a little bit more about mind change and how it can work for you. Tell me what you specifically want to work on, and I can then help facilitate the best next step for you, whatever that is. And it's different for different people, but that's why the discovery calls can be really important and really helpful.
Yeah, they're really personalized.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And we've now 10 years, respectively, 10, 7, 5, however many,
10,
of
8,
knowing,
9,
of like dealing with people. And we have a pretty good idea, depending on where people are coming in and what their references are, of where they could start.
Yeah, for sure.
So great. Thanks.
Thanks for the conversation.
Yeah. Looking forward to that next one.
All right.
And thank all of you for joining us once again on the Mind Change podcast. Remember, if something from this episode struck you, or you think that it could be helpful to someone else, or if you're just curious, or if you're like, oh my gosh, can you believe they said? Great, share it. Share it with someone, click subscribe, download, all of those things. It helps to let us know what you guys want to hear about and what you need to have us focus on. So please do all of those things. We really, really appreciate it. So thanks for joining us again on the Mind Change podcast, where we are changing the world one mind at a time.